This session is going to be focusing on our ankle mobility, but with ankle mobility comes a few other things we need to consider, such as calf sort of length and lengthening, and also the mobility of our foot in general. So we're going to work through a few exercises. Some might add an additional challenge. Don't worry if you're finding it quite hard, just work with where you're at the moment. If you are struggling with things like your squat depth, if that's what you need to achieve, then actually this will just come with time and position and also some mobility drills on the side. Great, okay, let's get started. So you can see just coming up into a nice lunge position here, making sure that I've got enough space between my front foot and my back thigh. You can see I've got a nice square here. I'm just going to sit upright, so adjust myself just for good posture and working our hips as well. So from here, I'm slowly going to just drive my right knee over my right toes, and then I'm going to push back. Try and lengthen that leg. It means you do twist a little bit. That doesn't really matter as long as you're in with control. Pushing forwards, driving back. Last time, pushing forwards, keeping that heel planted, driving back. Good. From here, we're just going to push, bring your foot back just a little bit, and just maybe a fist away from that front knee. And we're going to do the same again. So we're creating a little bit more tension here. Keep that heel nice and planted. Drive that knee as far over those toes as you can in a nice line, and then push back a little bit. So 1, 2, 3. You can, of course, if you're finding this hard, put your hand on the floor. From here, we're just going to pull this right foot back just a little bit so it's in line with our back knee. I'm going to take my hands in front of me. I'm going to slowly, with control, drop my front knee towards the mat, keeping those toes nice and planted on the mat. So really driving those toes into the mat. I'm going to lift up that back leg if I can, and then drive through back into our nice seated position. I'm going to do that twice more. So if you don't want to lift that back leg, don't worry about it, don't lift it. It's just an added little bit of tension or weight to go through that movement. 2, last one, slowly lowering down. 3, good. From here, we're just going to switch sides. So drop the right knee to the mat, take that left foot out in front of you. Get that nice square between your legs. Nice upright position, drop your hips in nice and level. And then we're going to do the same again. So driving forwards for 3, nice and slowly and controlled. 2, 1. Good. Coming back to a nice lunge position, bringing the left foot back to about a fist away from that front knee. Just making sure you've got enough width between there for your balance, and then same again. So keeping that heel nice and planted, driving that knee forwards, pulling back. That's 1. Keep breathing. 2. Really feeling the tension on your calf here, Achilles. 3. Good. Taking the left foot back now in line with the knee, using your hands, slowly dropping your left knee down towards the mat. Keeping the left toes planted on the mat. Lift that right leg, point those toes, come in. So that's 1. Same again, slowly dropping the knee down towards the mat, keeping those toes nice and planted, lifting that back leg. 2. Last one, with control. Make this one count. Really drive your left toes into the mat. 3. Good. Coming on to working a little bit on our calves, a little bit more on our calves. Coming back onto our heels and taking our right leg out in front of us. If you can't get down in this position or it's super uncomfortable, you can be in a nice upright position. You can hold on to something as well just to stabilize yourself. But I'm going to be sat down on the mat. It doesn't really matter where your foot is, just as long as you're relatively comfortable and you've got this right leg out in front of you in some way. So I'm going to start off by really pointing my toes here. I'm really trying to drive my toes down towards the mat, the sole of my foot down towards the mat. I'm going to feel a pull all the way up the front of the shin. I'm just going to pulse from side to side for 3, for 2, for 1. Slowly drawing those toes back towards my shin for 3, for 2, for 1. Driving those toes down once again. Really trying to drive the sole of the foot into the mat. If this is really, really stretching your hamstring, just bend the knee. We want to try and isolate the stretch down towards your calf area for 2. For 1, drawing those toes back for 3. Maybe wiggle them around for 2. For 1. Good. Placing your hands either side of your knees, coming up, sweeping that front foot back, and then trying to drive the top of your foot into the mat behind you. So you're almost in a half plank position with your knee on the mat. Your right foot is outstretched behind you, and you're driving that right set of toes into the mat, trying to get your ankle to touch the mat if you can. You might not get very far, you might be here, or you might even be here. Don't worry, just work with what you've got. Try to make sure you're not moving over to one side. You want to try and keep it nice and, I suppose, level, in line, so your ankle in line with your knee in line with your hips for 2, for 1. Switching over, so coming back onto your heels, taking that left leg out in front of you, pointing those toes initially, so trying to drive the sole of your foot down towards the mat for 3, for 2, maybe wiggling 1. Bring those toes towards the shin for 3, for 2, for 1. Same round again. So dropping the toes with the sole of the foot towards the mat for 3, for 2, for 1. Driving those toes up towards your shins, maybe bending the knee if it's pulling too much on your hamstrings for 2, for 1. Good. Placing your hands either side of your knees, driving that foot all the way through, pushing it out behind you, adjusting your hands so you're in a nice stable position, driving the top of that left ankle in towards the mat or to the floor. Again, just check your alignment, your heel's not going out to one side or the other. For 3, if it's hurting your knee, bend the knee. For 2, for 1. Good. Bring your left knee to meet your right knee. And then taking your right foot out in front of you. So from here, you can be on your bottom or you can be in the position that I'm in. We're just going to work on that lateral movement of the ankle. So I'm going to take my ankle, I'm going to hold it. As I slowly push my knee out towards the side, I'm going to drive the side of my foot on towards the mat. And then I'm going to hold my ankle and just pull my knee up gently and then drop it down. You're going to feel this in your hips as well. You might find it easier on the floor, but what we're really trying to do is push our ankle into a nice stretch position, but not too far, and then relaxing it. So we're just lifting it up, keeping the ankle fixed towards the floor, the side of the foot fixed towards the floor for 2, for 1. Good. Switching sides, taking that left ankle into a position where you find comfortable, slowly moving that foot onto the side, onto the mat. So my left foot's on the left side, keeping that nice and fixed as I just play around with my knee and my hip. So I'm going to feel it in my knee, but I'm also really working that ankle area for 3, for 2, for 1. Good. Taking your feet now hip width apart underneath you and coming down into a nice squat position. However you squat, really, you might be nice and low with your bottom quite close to the mat, or you might have your bottom up a little bit. Whichever position you're in, try and lift that torso. And if you can rest your arms on your knees, or you can just rest your arms inside your knees. If you find your knees starting to cave in just a little bit, making sure that each of our feet have got sort of almost a tripod position. So our big toe, our little toe, and our heel are all on the floor. If you're finding this position really hard, not able to get that tripod position on the floor, I suggest you go against the wall, because what we're trying to do is establish that nice firm position, and whilst we're working on our dorsiflexion and that calf mobility. So if you're in this position, we're just going to rock back and forth. For 3, you're going to feel it in your shins. Keep that torso upright if you can, or as upright as you can. For 2. For 1. Good. From here, we're just going to move from side to side. Again, trying to keep that tripod position in the ankles. For 3. For 2. You're going to feel this in the hips as well. For 1. Good. Placing your hands on the floor, lifting that bottom up, keeping those knees nice and bent, heel toeing your feet in together, bending those knees, hands on the hips, slowly coming up, especially if you've got low blood pressure. Take your time here so you don't feel lightheaded. And then for the last little bit, we're going to go onto our toes. So we're going to transition up onto our toes, and we're going to try and hold our balance without our heels sort of lopping outwards. So you can do whatever you want with your hands, but we're going to hold this position for 3, for 2, for 1. We're slowly going to lower down towards the mat. Lift those toes, and if you want to bend that torso over to grab your toes to really lift them up, you can do. That's going to pull in your hamstrings, or you can just be in an upright position and then just lift one set of toes and then the other set of toes. For 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Good. Slowly lowering your feet towards the mat, relaxing out that position, shaking those legs. Well done. You've completed the dorsiflexion mobility session. Thanks very much. See you next session. Bye.